Again, thank you. A very warm welcome to each and every one of you here today. Just some housekeeping rules just to start us off. So you will notice that everybody is muted. If you wish to speak or ask a question, please raise your hand, or you can in fact use the chat if you wish to do so. You can see from the agenda here that we have quite a lot that we need to cover today. So instead of reading this agenda out to you, we're just going to jump straight into it if nobody has any objections. That's great. Kieran.
Okay, so the first thing I'll talk to you today about is alerts and scanning. So here we have our alert rate from the start of the year. So this doesn't necessarily represent total volume of alerts. This is the alert to scan ratio. So you can see we had quite a few spikes at the start of the year, but over the last few months, we've had a concentrated effort to try and get our alert rate down as low as possible. And you can see that starting in roughly kind of late February, early May, we got it down to quite a steady level. And it's been pretty steady since then. We did have a spike in this month, but it's actually kind of a false spike in the sense that we just had an unusually high number of alerts on a bank holiday where there was quite a low number of scans. So our alert rate spiked, but there actually wasn't anything to worry about there. So we're very happy with where our alert rate is going. It's going down quite low, and our goal is to get it down to 0.05%. So we're happy with that. Here then is our scan rate. So in mid-April, ourselves and the PSI, we had a push to try and reach out to our low scanning and non-scanning locations and get them on board. You can see that towards the start of May, we did see our scanning rate start to climb, and at the start of May we had a peak of 281,000 scans on a single day. Unfortunately, then the HSE malware attack occurred just after that, and obviously all HSE locations stopped scanning, which is obviously understandable. So our scanning rate took a hit, and it dropped quite a bit. But it has been slowly climbing back up, and the HSE is beginning to scan again. So hopefully we'll see that start to rise up to where we had it at the start of May, and then climb higher again. So just to give an overview of our alert rate over the past couple of weeks. So it has been coming down, and just to bring particular attention to week 24, which was our lowest alert rate ever. So we had a rate of 0.13%. And also to bring your attention to the Irish end user alert. So that's what we have the most influence over. We can't necessarily control all of the elements to do with our total alert rate, but our Irish end user alert rate is gone quite low, and it's all the way down to 0.1%. So we're very happy with that. As I said, our goal is 0.05%. So we are getting close to it, and if you could see the full picture, we are approaching it, and hopefully we'll reach it soon. But yeah, we can see that the overall alert rate for Europe is 0.29%. So we are doing quite a bit better than that, but our goal is 0.05, and then we're not going to stop there. Hopefully we'll get down to where Slovakia is. So they're at 0.01, so they're currently doing the best. But yeah, overall, we're happy with where our alert rate is and where it's going, and it's continuing to move downwards. So this is just to give an image of where we are in relation to the rest of Europe. You know, obviously we want to be as close to the right as possible. The competition is pretty close, so you know we're hopefully going to pass out Latvia soon enough. But overall, we think we are doing quite well. Our alert rate is coming down, so it was 0.19 in week 21, and again, yeah, we're hoping to get that down to 0.05. And here's just a breakdown of where our alerts, of what our alerts are. So you can see that the vast majority of our alerts are A7 alerts, and there's a couple of reasons for that. So the first is that we see quite a lot of double decommissioning, so end user procedural errors where end users are scanning packs multiple times. And I'll talk a little bit more about this later, but we are doing quite a lot of work to try and reduce this and get it down as low as possible. Another cause of A7 alerts is system-related alerts. So for multi-market packs, if the IMVS attempts to update other national systems of the state of a particular pack. Sometimes there can be a request there that isn't answered in time, and then that request gets sent again, which produces an A7 alert. So that there's not a lot we can do there on our side, but SolidSoft is working to reduce that kind of thing from happening. And the other cause of A7 alerts is through MAH and wholesaler transactions. And this often results in the spikes that we saw earlier. So one MAH or wholesaler transaction on, let's say, a batch can produce a huge number of alerts. So for instance, if a batch is marked as exported, and then if it's marked as exported again, that single transaction can result in thousands of alerts, and more often than not, they show up as A7 alerts. So a lot of our work is going into reducing A7 alerts, and I won't go into too much detail on the rest of the alert types, but they are quite manageable, and again, they are all kind of trending downwards. So we're happy with that. Here's just a breakdown of a couple of weeks that we've picked at random. So we'll take a look at week 16, 19, and 22. So just to give an idea of the source of our alerts and the cause of them. So in no particular order, I'll just kind of start at the top and I'll talk you through where our alerts are coming from. So the first is MAH transactions, which you'd be most familiar with. So as you can see from our numbers here, we're very happy with where we are on that. So a big thanks to everybody here for the work that you've done on getting this type of alert down to as low as it is. So week 16 1 alert, week 19 0, and week 22 we had 94, and sometimes we do see issues that produce some alerts, but it's gone down very low, so we're happy with that. Intermarket transactions, then, this is the kind of the type of transaction that we have the least amount of control over. So packs being scanned in other markets that then the data is held in the Irish system, so these show up as alerts for us. It's generally not a huge issue. So in week 16 and week 22, we had quite a low number of intermarket transactions, but in week 19, you can see we had 1,900, and 1,800 of those were due to a single wholesaler in another market who had an issue, and that caused our alert rate to kind of jump on in that week. Then MAH data upload issues. So we are still seeing this. So this is basically where MAHs are uploading data late. So if a batch makes it to market and end users begin scanning packs out of that batch, if the data isn't in the system, every single one of those scans is going to produce an alert. So most of you are fully compliant with this, but we really ask all of you to make sure that it's in your procedures that all data is uploaded for batches before they hit the market. So we have gotten that down quite low. Week 22, I think, was our best week to this point. I think it's even actually lower now, but we had 265 data upload alerts in week 22. But yeah, so we would just really ask you all to make sure that it's in your procedures that the data gets uploaded before it hits the market. Next, we have end user procedural errors. So as I spoke about before, this is end users decommissioning packs more than once, and it shows up as A7 alerts. We see end users often scanning split packs more than once, and we have been putting in a lot of effort to get this down as low as possible. It is difficult because we have 1,800 pharmacies in the country, and each pharmacy has a number of staff members, and we have to make sure that every single one of those staff members knows the correct procedure and knows not to scan packs twice. So we do follow up with the end users that we see that we can see that are scanning packs multiple times. So we do this on a weekly basis, and it's not that evident from the weeks that we've picked here, but it is coming down, and we're hoping to get that down as low as possible. Then scanner issues we have next. So scanner issues is kind of similar to procedural issues in that we have 1,800 pharmacies. Each pharmacy has at least one scanner, and we need to make sure that every single one of those scanners is working correctly. And we sometimes see issues where end users purchase scanners from Amazon in different places, and often we can see issues with that. But whenever we see signs that a scanner is causing issues with a particular end user, we do reach out to them and get that sorted. The next issue then is software issues. So there are bugs in some of the softwares, and they do produce quite a number of alerts. When we do see these issues pop up, we might see maybe 100 end users all causing the same type of alert. What we do in this case is we'll go directly to the software provider and get this sorted kind of at the source, rather than kind of chasing down end users to try and solve it that way. And just to give an example, so you can see the next section here is data splicing. So data splicing is actually just a particular software issue, and we had been seeing huge numbers of alerts from data splicing, which is why we kind of separated it out from just the general software section. But this issue has actually been solved by the software provider, and now it's just a matter of getting each individual end user that uses this software to update their software so that they get that particular fix. And you can see that represented in the numbers. So week 16 we had 52, then 19 we had 40, and then week 22 it's all the way down to 15. So it's just those last few pharmacies that need to update their software, and data splicing will kind of disappear. And then the last source of alerts is other. So this is things like pre-FMD packs, Indian packs, that kind of thing. So it's not that much of an issue anymore, and particularly with pre-FMD packs, they're beginning to filter out of the system. So we'll see less and less of them as time goes on. So that's just a breakdown of where our alerts are coming from. So the key causes of MAH alerts. So the main one is data upload issues. So things like errors in data, so the wrong product code or batch number, that kind of thing. Failed or incomplete uploads. So this is kind of a difficult one, because we understand that if a batch fails to upload, the only thing you can kind of do is upload that again, but then that's going to produce some 832s. That's unavoidable. Other issues are group separators not set up properly, and also over-the-counter packs set up in the system. So over-the-counter packs are not part of FMD. Then we can see, so another issue we see is multi-market packs that are not licensed here being set up in Ireland in the hub, but then data isn't uploaded to the Irish system. So this is going to cause alerts in other markets, because if, let's say, a pack is scanned in Spain, and if the hub tells the Spanish NMVS that the data is in the Irish NMVS, for instance, if that data isn't actually there, that's going to cause an alert in Spain. So make sure that if you have a market listed in the hub, you need to make sure that the data is uploaded for that market. Then some more causes of alerts. So attempts to decommission already decommissioned packs. So I mentioned this before, if this is done on a batch level, this can cause huge spikes. So if you try to export, a batch of 10,000 packs, if you do that twice, that's going to cause 10,000 alerts, and we're going to see that straight away, and it's going to be quite a large spike in our alert rates. So the kind of best practice in this situation is, if you're ever unsure of a transaction, if it's gone through, you should verify before redoing the transaction. Your first action should not be to redo the decommissioning transaction. Then we have the manner in which the 2D barcode is printed. So we see kind of two issues here. The first is the 2D barcode is sometimes printed too close to the linear barcode. And what we see is end users can scan both barcodes at the same time. And this can result in the product code from the 1D barcode getting inserted into the 2D barcode, and that can cause different kinds of alerts depending on where it's inserted. So, if possible, we would ask you to print the 1D barcode away from the 2D barcode. And we've also, we address this issue at the end user side as well, in that we instruct them to cover the 1D barcode with their thumb if possible when scanning 2D barcodes. Another issue we see is not enough white space around the barcode. So sometimes if there's not enough white space, a barcode can be difficult to scan, and if something is difficult to scan, the end user will generally then try to manually enter that data, and that very often will cause alerts. Then we have, data for packs serialized pre-Feb 2019 not uploaded. So this isn't much of an issue anymore, because those packs are beginning to filter out of the system. And then again, pre-Feb 2019 packs. So yeah, that's not really much of an issue anymore, because those packs again are beginning to filter out. So then ongoing activity. So what are we doing to reduce alerts? So as I said, so we're following up with MAHs and end users with high numbers of alerts or unusual alerts or patterns of alerts. So we analyze our alerts every week, and we've tried to find any patterns. If there's any particular software alerts, we follow up with end users that are producing large number of alerts, and also with MAHs if we see high numbers of alerts or patterns. So this is an ongoing activity, and this is kind of a large driver of our alert rate going down. Then the HPRA and IMVO is engaging with MAHs and OBPs. So some of you might have had some engagement with IMVO regarding alerts. Interaction with FMD software providers, rescanner and software issues. So yeah, as I mentioned before, whenever we do find software issues, we'll just go straight to the software provider and try and get it sorted at the source. And that can reduce in large numbers of alerts just kind of disappearing at the end user side just from solving a single software issue. We've been working closely with the HSE FMD project team. So they've really been fantastic with regard to FMD. They produce quite low numbers of alerts, and they really are kind of on top of things regarding FMD. Obviously they have stopped scanning for the moment, but once they get things kind of back on track, they will be back scanning again. Webinars and clinics for the pharmacies, hospitals, wholesalers, and obviously for the MAHs who we're all here today. So we've been running these clinics and webinars just to try and educate people on FMD and correct procedures, and just to answer any questions that anybody has. And then finally, fixes to the IMVS and to the hub. So occasionally we will see issues with the national system or with the hub, and we will we liaise with SolidSoft and with IMVO to get those kind of things sorted. So summary of scanning. So scanning is increasing. So as we saw from the graphs earlier, it has dipped a little bit in the last couple of weeks, but it is going back up again. And the PSI is following up with pharmacies to drive compliance. So we're not an enforcement agency here. We're here to assist and support the pharmacies, and we do encourage them to scan as much as possible, but it is the responsibility of the PSI to ensure that they do scan. So we work closely with the PSI for this purpose. IMVO is providing support to pharmacies to achieve full scanning. So yeah, we work closely with pharmacies, and any pharmacy that's having trouble scanning, we work with them to try and get any issues sorted. And yeah, I've already spoken about the HSE cyber attacks. So they stopped scanning on the 17th of May, but they are going to be back scanning again soon. So next up we have alert management. So Leonie, I'll hand over to you here. You're on mute there, Leonie.
Thanks, Kieran. Next slide, please. Okay, so we want to remind you about the guidance that we issued to you before Christmas regarding the investigation of A7, A24 and A68 alerts. So you might recall with the change to the hub that was introduced last year, OBP started to get these alert reports for the first time. And we felt that actually it came out of one of these MAH webinars last October. Was there any guidance on what MAHs were supposed to do with these alerts? So arising from that, then we had a conversation with the HPRA, and we made the argument to the HPRA that really most A7, A24 and A68 alerts are due to issues on the end user side, particularly where those alerts are seen at end user locations. So just to recap, A7 and A24 are basically you're trying to carry out a decommissioning action that has already been undertaken. So for example, double scanning a pack that's already been decommissioned. And A68 then is an expiry date mismatch, and that's often due to a scanner or software issue when we see these alerts at the end user side. So just to clarify, when we use the term end user, we mean pharmacies, hospitals and wholesalers, anyone who's connected to the national system to verify and decommission packs. So thankfully the HPRA was agreeable to the proposal we put to them, which was that MAHs are not required to carry out a documented investigation of A7, A24 and A68 alerts, except in the following circumstances. So in the following cases, you do have to carry out these, you do have to investigate. So first of all, obviously, if you've caused the alerts yourself, so some of your own transactions have caused these alerts, then clearly you need to investigate. Equally, where an end user, a pharmacy, hospital or wholesaler contacts you, then you need to investigate. And when we contact you about such an alert, we would, the expectation is you will investigate. And obviously then, as with anything to do with FMD, if the HPRA or any other NCA requires you to investigate an alert, then obviously you need to do that. So as I say, that advice was issued by email on the 2nd of December. We just wanted to remind you about it because we do get queries from time to time about this. So next slide. Okay, so I just want to talk to you very briefly about the Alert Management Working Group. It's a group that's been operating at European level, set up by the EMVS stakeholders, so NMVOs and EMVO stakeholders. And in fact, I see a number of you on the call would have been on some of the recent calls where we've been reporting on the work of this group. So the whole idea of this group was really to try and alleviate the impact of the alerts on everyone, because an alert impacts everyone. It impacts an end user, it impacts industry, it impacts wholesalers, and it impacts ourselves. So the group had 3 main areas of focus. The first of these was to develop alert management guidelines, which I'll come back to in a moment, and really to come up with a consistent approach across Europe to handling alerts. The second piece then is continuing the efforts to prevent false alerts. So you would have seen some of the examples of what we're doing here in Ireland, you know, scanner guidance, working with software providers, this type of activity is going on across Europe, and that's what has enabled alert rates to come down. Also, your own efforts to make sure that your data is correct, that it's uploaded on time, that there are no errors in product master data. That's all part of this piece of work. And then the final step then is the development of an alert management system. So again, some of you will be aware, IMVO is working on developing an alert management system, or AMS hub, and the idea is that this will connect all the existing national systems that are out there and provide MAHs and OBPs with a single point of access into the various national systems. And it will pull alert data from the EMVS, so it will just streamline the general running of and management of alerts. Next slide. So just very briefly about the best practice on alert handling, which was the first point I mentioned in the previous slide. So this document was developed by a group of NMVOs and IMVO stakeholders. So the pharmacists, the wholesalers, the 3 manufacturing bodies all came together to develop this document. There was a couple of Q&A sessions on the draft, and it was fine-tuned, and eventually then it was approved by the IMVO board last week, and it was presented. Actually, it has now been presented to the NCAs. IMVO ran a workshop for them on Tuesday this week, and I think it was well received. I think a lot of them are going to have to think about it. A lot of NMVOs locally are planning to have discussions with their NCAs about this document. And, you know, I think it's been a very positive piece of work. So this document, what it attempts to do is to define what we consider as best practice for managing alerts generally, and it defines roles and responsibilities of MAHs, end users, NMVOs and IMVO, communication channels between the parties, and then the point at which the NCA must be notified of suspected falsification. We've already presented it to the HPRA last week, and they have agreed that, yes, they're happy to use this as a starting point for discussions with stakeholders and national guidance in Ireland, and that's something we'll be doing over the next, we want to do that over the summer period, get going on this discussion and get it concluded hopefully fairly quickly. And once we have a general agreement on the high level principles of how we're going to manage alerts here when we exit our use and learn period, the plan then will be able to come up with detailed decision trees. So if an end user, say, gets an A2 alert on screen when they scan a pack, what we'll be able to do is there'll be a link on their software that will link them into a page with the decision tree to allow them to work out what they need to do and when they might be able to close out that alert and supply the pack to the patient, or when they need to wait for feedback from yourselves or ourselves in relation to that alert. Next slide, please. So just very briefly about the EMVS alert management system. I'm not going to get into a lot of detail here. I have a couple of slides, but I'm just going to give you focus maybe on this one. So it's an EMVS project, which includes representatives from all the EMVS stakeholders, as I've mentioned. The objective is to support EMVS users to follow up an alert investigation. And it also will make sure that all the steps in the alert investigation process are fully logged and auditable. And the idea is that it would sit alongside the EMVS, but it will use the alert data generated in the EMVS, and it will also use people's existing connections to the EMVS to manage alerts. So I suppose the ultimate goal is efficiency of alert management, particularly when we get to steady state, which IMVO has set as a target of 0.05% across Europe. Now, I know certainly that's our target here in Ireland in the short term, but certainly I know most NMVOs we want to get lower than 0.05 eventually, because at the end of the day, every alert that's not investigated and closed out is potentially a patient not getting their medicine. And equally, an alert that's not fully investigated is potentially a falsified medicine. So we have to really make sure we have robust alert management procedures in place. Next slide, please. So I won't go through the slide in detail. You can see it yourselves in the when you read the slides afterwards. I'll go on to the next slide, please. So just in terms of where this project is at, basically, I suppose the key one there of note is IMVO was hoping to start a pilot of this project in early October. We have done some local pilots of the NMBS alert management system. So as some of you will be aware, we're testing that system at the moment. And we're also keen to be part of the pilot that will commence on the AMS Hub in October through the NMBS alert groups. There's, I think, 11 countries using that system. So we're hoping that we'll be involved in the pilot from the early stages, because our feeling is there's a lot of learnings to be had from taking part in pilots. Next slide, please. Okay, Kieran, back to you.
Yeah, so I'm just going to give you a quick explanation of NMBS alerts, and then I'll give you a short demo of the functionality. So what is NMBS alert? So it's a tool for managing alerts between different parties. So it's currently used in 10 countries, some internally, some with their end users and MAHs on board. It basically allows end users, NMVOs, MAHs, and also NCAs to communicate about alerts in a single place. So it completely kind of removes the need for emails. So you can make comments, you can attach photos, you can notify different parties. It really just simplifies the entire process of investigating alerts. So we've run two pilots so far with NMVS alerts, and we've had very positive feedback. The next step now is that we will be inviting all MAHs to onboard to the system. We'll be doing that over the coming months. And then once we have that done, the next step will then be to onboard the end users as well. So I'll just switch over now to NMBS alerts. So this is basically what it will look like. It'll look slightly different for you because I'm currently logged in as an NMVO, whereas you'll be logged in as an MAH. And just to draw your attention to one point, which is that as an MAH, you will not be able to see the names of the locations of the end users. So you won't be able to see the pharmacies or the wholesalers or the hospitals. So down here, so this is just test data here. You can see that I can see test, i.e. wholesaler. You won't be able to see that. So up here, you've got all of the different filters, and you can filter and sort things whichever way you want. If there's particular filters you like, you can save them over here. If we just take a look at a particular alert, so I have it open here. Here's the alert data up at the top. For me, because I'm logged in as an NMVO, I can see the NMVO section up at the top, but if you log in as an MAH, you'll see the MAH section up at the top, so you'll be able to see the alert data and your section in the same place. Just to give a quick overview, you can if it's not as falsified, if you found that it's not falsified, you can mark what the issue is, if it's a master data issue or something like that. You can, if it is suspected falsified, you can give a reason. You're able to mark things as investigated, mark them as resolved. If you want to inform us of something, you can click this box. You can apply things on a batch level, and you can leave any comments that you have in here. So every party, so you can see there's an MVO section, an end user, an MAH, and also an NCA section. Every party will be able to input their findings on a particular alert, and if we scroll down here, you can see the action log, which acts as a kind of an audit trail. So just a couple of things that I've done on this alert. So firstly, I put in just test as a comment, then I marked it as investigated, then I informed the MAH, and then I just changed my comment to double dispense. So any comment that any party makes will be recorded here. So you can see exactly what happens over time. And if if somebody makes a comment and they go back and they change that with updated information, their original comment will still be logged here. So you can see that the whole kind of story of the alert and how it's investigated and different things that pop up. So
Kieran, can I just interrupt you for a moment, please?
Yeah,
we have a question in the chat. It just says, how will the EMVS update to support alert management change the existing process?
Lisa, I was going to suggest maybe we take all the questions at the end, if that's okay,
Yep,
because that actually
fine.
relates to the previous section rather than this one. So
Sure.
perhaps if you want to keep typing away questions in the chat box, we'll take them all at the end, if that's okay. I think it might work better if that's all right. Thanks.
So I'll leave that question for now. That's basically all I was going to show you anyway today. When we do get to the stage of onboarding MAHs, we will do a more detailed session where we'll show you kind of a more detailed instruction on how this all works. But that's basically just to give you a flavor of what an MVS alerts is like. So I'll go back to the slides now. So to give you an update on the IMVS and the EMVS, so here's the number of packs that we have in the IMVS at the moment. So 680 million packs as of 23rd of June. You might be wondering why that's so high, because Ireland market size is about 100 million. So after 2.5 years, you might expect around 250 million packs. But the reason is that is multi-market packs. So we have a lot of data for packs in our system, packs that may never actually end up in Ireland. And you can see from the graph that the trajectory is pretty much linear, and we expect it to keep kind of climbing as time goes on until we hit the point where we don't need to retain records that are a certain age. So to give an update on the IMVS and the EMVS, so we're continuing coordinating improvements with both the NMVS and the hub. So the 6 releases for 2021. With the solid system, we had one in April. We're on release 8 at the moment, and there's another scheduled for October. Arvado had an update in February and another scheduled for September, and then there's also scheduled updates for the hub. And the purpose of the new releases is to reduce alerts, improve operational efficiency and usability, and to fix bugs. So it's a continual process of improving the system and then fixing any issues that arise with those new improvements that come up. So next up, we have Use and Learn Ireland. So Lisa, I'll hand over to you.
Thanks very much, Kieran. Do you want to go to the next slide, please? Okay, so the prerequisites for ending of Use and Learn. I'm sure that most of you will have seen this at this stage, so I'm just going to run through this slide very, very quickly. We want our alert rate to be at 0.05%, and as Leonie has alluded to, we would like to see that much lower than that. But that is the target that we're trying to get through for the moment. All our end users need to be scanning as per the DR. We are doing a lot of work around minimizing of our alerts. Kieran alluded to that earlier on when he said that we categorize our alerts. We reach out to software, scanners, end users, MAHs, all of that, to try to resolve those issues, to get those alerts down as much as we possibly can. Everybody clear on what to do if there's an alert, including clear responsibilities for deciding if a pack may be supplied or not. A fast, efficient process for communication between parties, and that really is our NMVS alerts. Clarity on exit and Brexit, clarity of impact on Brexit, and capacity of our end users to deal with alerts in the face of challenges of COVID. Next slide, please, Kieran. So the 2 points that I really want to draw your attention to within this slide are the recent consultation held with stakeholders on proposing to end use and learn for end users in Q1 of 2022. So that is our target. That is when we are hoping that we will be able to end use and learn. That date is not finalized yet. We don't have the go ahead to do that yet. We will communicate those details to you when we're made aware of them. So those are just the 2 really, really important points I wanted to draw your attention to on this slide. Next slide, please, Kieran. Communications. So we've been doing a lot of work here in the IMVO, busy reaching out to all of our stakeholders. So one of the things that we did was we looked at the behaviour and attitude survey of pharmacies in late 2020 to understand their information needs and how we can best meet them. And that is definitely one of the things that we're looking at in terms of our end and use and learn. Our webinars on how to get to grips with scanning and explore other uses of barcodes. Again, something that we're looking to do is to make sure that we have everybody knows how to scan properly, who to contact if there's an issue. We launched our first FMD clinic for hospital and pharmacies a number of weeks ago. We're hosting our webinars. We're having one today, and we held a further one on the 21st of June as well. We have a new format newsletter that's due to be published shortly, and you will all be hearing about that. And then we've significantly upgraded our website. So we've added a lot more help pages to our website so that everybody will be able to go in and actually find the solution to their issues. Next slide, please, Kieran. So the IMVO user portal. Next slide, please, Kieran. So we've launched a new user portal. We have you can go onto our website, and what you can do is actually onboard yourself as a new MAH, which means that we'll be able to get the agreements out to you electronically. For our existing MAHs, you will actually be able to go in and manage your own accounts as required. So we were hoping to send an invitation really, really shortly within the next couple of weeks to each and every one of you. And you'll be able to onboard and go on and actually be able to update all your details within the system. I think the next slide, please, Kieran. Leonie, I'm going to hand over to you to speak about the MAH fees.
Leonie, you're on mute there.
You're on mute.
Sorry about this, I keep doing that. My apologies. So we've already been in touch with you to notify you of the IMVO board decision to issue credit notes in relation to the 2021 fee, provided you've paid your invoice in full by the 30th of June. So, and we'd explained to you the reason for all of that was we have built up reserves since 2017 because we would have had a number of contingencies in our budget relating to Brexit, and also unknown, it wasn't absolutely clear, would we need to make changes to our system? There was a number of different aspects we had to consider, and we needed to be prudent in our budgeting about. Also, IMVO then has significantly reduced the fees that we are going to be paying to them. We got a refund in relation to last year's fees, and we've got a very substantial reduction this year, and there will be further reductions over the next couple of years. So arising from all of that, then we want to bring our reserves to 1 year's expenditure. In order to do that, we're doing this one-off adjustment by way of refunding this year's fees, which you will get in a credit note that you can use against next year's fees. So just to remind you, if you've been invoiced for the 2021 fee and you haven't yet paid it, if we haven't received the money by the 30th of June, you won't receive a credit note. So I know our accountant, Alan, has been contacting people individually, but we just want to put out a final reminder. You have until Tuesday to get the fees paid to get the benefit of the credit notes. We will be sending out those credit notes in September. We'll also be notifying you of the 2022 fee, and that will be invoiced to you in January 2022 as normal. But obviously you won't have any payment to make if you've received a credit note for this year's fee. And for those of you who would have got rebates on your annual user fees due to your low turnover, you will get a credit note for the net fee paid. Next slide, please. So I think I've covered all of that there, so I don't need to get into it further. Brexit, I'll just mention briefly. We are continuing to spend a lot of time looking at Brexit, and I suppose our key priority is to ensure that FMD constraints don't impact on medicine supply in Ireland post-Brexit. And in order to do that, and I think you'd be aware of our work in this area, but we continue to engage with IMVO, with SecureMed, which is the UK NMBO, now the Northern Ireland NMBO, and the other impacted NMBOs, so Malta and Cyprus in particular. We also work closely with the Department of Health and the HPRA to monitor the impact of Brexit in Ireland, and we very much see the collaboration with the Department of Health and HPRA as an Ireland Inc. effort to make sure that any FMD aspects of Brexit don't impact on the ability to supply medicines in the market here, or that we don't end up having large numbers of alerts related to any of this. Sorry, go back to the previous slide, please. The Commission introduced a series of measures for 2021 to minimise the impact of Brexit, including an amendment to the delegated regulation to remove the obligation to decommission packs going to the UK, or going to GB rather. Now, we don't know what's going to happen with those transitional measures as we get towards the end of the year, and I think we certainly have a sense that we will need to monitor closely what would be the impact if those measures are removed. Next slide, please. So just briefly, a little bit about Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland, just to be absolutely clear, is not under the jurisdiction of IMVO, and I think we do find some MAHs do appear to think we have some role in relation to Northern Ireland. We don't. It's covered by SecureMed Northern Ireland, but I think just to give you some information, FMD is still applicable in NI under the Northern Ireland Protocol that's part of the Brexit agreement. We've mentioned SecureMed is now operating the NI and MVS since the 1st of January. And just one thing to remind you, if you're uploading data from NI Northern Ireland to the EMVS, please use the GB country code in your product master data, not IE. We saw in the early days of Brexit some NI data appearing in the Irish system, and that feeds into that 680 million PAC figure that you would have seen there. From our perspective, the problem is this data costs money. So we don't want to incur any unnecessary costs because of this error. And I know we brought this matter to the attention of IMVO when we saw this happening, and I know they did issue a letter of announcement to all the OBPs, but it's just a reminder, just be careful about this one. I suppose generally we're very interested to hear if you've got any issues related to Brexit from an FMD perspective, if you're finding anything, if you're substantially changing your supply routes. We're also interested to hear about that. Some of the wholesalers have told us that they have seen products now being routed for NI through the Republic of Ireland rather than through GB. So that may increase our data load in the EMVS, and obviously it's something in terms of alerts that we need to keep an eye out for. So if you're doing anything major from an FMD perspective, you might just let us know. It would be very helpful to have that information. Next slide, please. So COVID, please, I'll go back to you there.
Apologies, I had muted myself. So in relation to COVID, so our EMVO and MVO task force is monitoring progress with the COVID vaccines rollout in Europe from an FMD perspective and collaboration with relevant MAHs in the EU Commission. And we really thank you for all your help with that. Many COVID vaccines got temporary derogations from serialization requirements to ensure rapid availability within the EU. And the data for serialized COVID vaccines is uploaded to the 11 largest national systems and other marketing, including Ireland decommissioning via IMTs against those systems. So in Ireland, the 4 vaccines that we have are AstraZeneca, J&J, Moderna, and Pfizer-BioNTech. So no exemption from decommissioning required for serialized packs at present. Next slide, please. The ask of MAHs. Next slide, please. Really, what I really want to draw your attention to on this is just to please make sure that you always nominate your single point of contact to us. This is the person that we will reach out to for alerts and all of the information that we really need from you at a particular time. So just if you could do that for us, we would really, really appreciate that. Next slide, please. And we would also ask for your help in reducing alerts. What we have found recently is when we have been reaching out to the large majority of the MAHs, we have found that it has been absolutely fantastic, the information that's flowing between both of us and the help that we are getting from each and every one of you is much, much appreciated, and it is helping us to resolve issues a lot faster than we have been doing in the past. So again, we want to really, really thank you for engaging with us on all of that. It's much, much appreciated. I'm not really going to go through the rest of the slide with you guys. These slides will be available afterwards for each and every one of you to read at your own perusal. So next slide, please. Again, this particular slide, I will just send this out. We will send this one out to you. Okay, thank you. Next. So questions. I see that we do have